much for being here.
It's gonna be so fun.
Just by show of hands, who has watched all of Yellowjackets?
Nice.
Cool, amazing,
Good.
amazing.
We're gonna spoil.
Yeah, please know what you're getting into. Okay, I am going to be our moderator today. My name is Kailee Brown. I am a filmmaker here in Utah. I have done a lot of stuff with Apple Juice Productions, which other people here have also done. We may have made content for and by women, and I'm a cinematographer and editor, so I love a lot of film stuff. And I love Yellowjackets. So I'm gonna have everybody go down the line and introduce themselves as well, and also share which character you are most like. I am gonna say, so the truth is Amanda sent us all a BuzzFeed quiz and we all took it and it kind of was accurate actually. But, so I'm gonna say Thaisa.
That is correct.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah, it does.
I'm Sam. I am a English major connoisseur of all things spooky, weird, mystical, occult. Yeah, whatever form it's in, I'll take it. And I am Natalie.
She is Natalie.
Yes,
it's true.
True. Hi guys, I'm Colin Hinckley. I'm a writer and actor based in LA. I'm the author of The Black Lord and member of the Horror Writers Association of America. Who am I? Jeff. Jeff.
This is our Jeff.
The Jeff of it all.
Look, when his Papa Roach moment, I was like, yep, I identify.
Hi, I'm Amanda Taylor. I'm a writer and actress. I've written about pop culture as a journalist for about 10 years here in Utah and also in Los Angeles, where I currently live. I'm also a filmmaker. Kailee and I and all of us here have worked through Apple Juice Productions. And we love things that are by women, for women, about women. And this is just peak female content. So I'm really happy to celebrate. And I am a Lottie.
Absolutely.
Correct.
We are so excited to this panel. We're always already talking about Yellowjackets, so we were really excited to just.
We've been
be able
talking
to
about it all
talk
day.
about it.
Like, oh yeah, but the Yellowjackets panel. Oh yeah, but the Yellowjackets panel.
Yeah, to start off, actually, I'm gonna turn it to Samantha because she's the first one that watched Yellowjackets out of all of us, and is the reason we all started watching. So Samantha, I wanna ask you why you decided to share Yellowjackets with the rest of us. What made you love it? Yeah, and then we'll also talk about why we all loved it.
Okay, fair. One thing I love about this show, sorry, didn't mean to scoot you out there. And I knew you would all appreciate as storytellers, filmmakers, authors, people who appreciate good storytelling. One of my favorite things about Yellowjackets is the foreshadowing. There are moments in the first 2 episodes before they have gotten on the plane, like Misty watching the mouse drown in the pool, a direct nod to, sorry, spoilers, Javi drowning in the wilderness, Natalie, trips and sees Misty, kind of a premonition of her own death. Just the timing and the foreshadowing in the whole show is so important and so just down to the details, down to the nitty-gritty details. And I knew that as storytellers and story appreciators, you guys would all love it. Plus, there's the whole mystical aspect. I really like that even as a person who has caught up all the way, seen every episode, tried to get every morsel of information out of everything that they've given us so far, there's still so much we don't know. So you could be a casual watcher watching for the first time. You don't know the same things. I don't know them either. And I love that. So that's kind of why I wanted to share it with you guys, to get your opinions on who you thought Pit Girl was. Also, just so we could discuss whether or not the Antler Queen is something real or something mystical. Yeah, I'm just glad that you guys liked it.
Yeah, it's such a fun show.
And I'm glad you guys all watched it and liked it.
Yes.
I thought I was just alone here, screaming to a void. I didn't know if anyone else even watched it, so I'm glad you're all here.
We love it. Why do you guys like Yellowjackets, Colin and Amanda?
I'm really drawn to the folk horror element of it. As a writer of folk horror, I thought it was a really interesting new kind of take on the genre. For those of you who don't know, folk horror is the subgenre of horror that deals with folkloric and like pseudo-religious ideas. So the way that it develops as a series, and like they sort of drift more and more to this mystical, like pseudo-religious ideology, I think is super fascinating. So that's what drew me to it, and
I knew it.
Yeah, nailed it.
I think for me, it's the female rage. I really like, I like both timelines for different reasons, and we'll get into this a little bit, but I love these adult characters just being like, we have had it. And just the various ways that's sort of playing out in their careers, and as, they have different and stronger relationships, they have children, they have spouses, and all of this. And just sort of the way that like childhood comes back around, and the trauma that's sort of being addressed in a really bad way. These women are not handling it, let's put it that way. But I love that. I think like seeing more of these like anti-hero kind of characters. We were sort of in this moment of this, I'm gonna say 10, 15 years ago, where it was like The Sopranos gave way to like all these anti-hero men. We got Breaking Bad, we got Mad Men, and all of this like prestige drama kind of stuff. And this is, I think, a great sort of response to that from the female perspective, and just like how much pressure we all sort of deal with in a different way. I love that part of it.
Yeah, I feel similarly. I love the show. So one of my favorite shows is Pretty Little Liars, and I feel like, so I feel like this show,
If you get it, you get it.
constantly been wanting, like that show was good, but it had a lot of problems, and I feel like this show gives me what I really wanted from that show, which is so fun.
And it actually
awesome.
makes sense.
And it actually makes sense and is good. It's for the girls, it's about the girls, it's so messy. I love the two timelines, and we don't really know what's going on in either of them. Like, there's just so many questions and things to be solved. Like, it's so fun, and I love seeing the female relationships happen, and all that. So yeah, it's pretty fun. Okay, so let's talk about the younger timeline first, and I don't know, initial thoughts, and then we'll kind of get into it a little bit. What do you think about the young timelines?
I miss Jackie.
I miss Jackie too.
I think we all do a little bit, right? I really love the dynamic of how there are different relationships when the plane crashes to like at the end of season 2.
That's true.
I just love the progression. Yeah, someone else take it.
I feel like I'm a very indoor cat, so I'm not a sports person at all, and I love watching sports art where there's like minimal sport. But you get these personality types, all of these women who are on the team, the girls, the young teens, they're winners, they're killers. And you get all these personalities that have kind of come into this place where they are going to battle it out, right? There's going to be like a little bit of a conflict about like who's in charge and which way they're going to go with all of it, and they all have this like instinct that comes from being not just on a team, but also like they have individual roles on the team, and I think that part of it is super interesting in the young timeline, how they go from like being athletes on a team who are working toward a goal to being like survivors on a team who are working towards a goal, and just sort of like how their sportsish mentality kind of comes into that, and the competitiveness and all of that I love.
Yeah.
There was a meme going around while that was on. I'm going to butcher it, but it was basically, there's the two shows about soccer. There's the boys show, Ted Lasso, which is about crying, and there's the girls show, Yellowjackets, which is about murder.
Cannibalism.
So I just love that it plays with like gender tropes in a really interesting way, and just like really leans into how feral young women can be, like when they lean into it. I think it's just it's a really just the young group. I think their arc is really fascinating, how they sort of descend into this sort of dark depth together. It's really fascinating, and also how it kind of mirrors Lord of the Flies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The creator said something like, we wanted to make Lord of the Flies but girls, and they told us, well, girls would never behave that way, and we said,
Wrong.
Didn't he say something like girls would never be that like grisly or
I was like, you've never been a teenage girl.
Yes, I love what Amanda was talking about with the soccer team and how it starts out, and Jackie is like totally like she's the team captain, she's in charge, she's like, I can handle this group, you know, they're at the party, and she's like, no, like we're gonna say nice things to each other, it's all gonna solve it. And then they get in the wilderness, and obviously Jackie is like the weak link, like she completely struggles there. That's not who she is, and I love seeing the dynamics of them starting out as a team, and then, you know, they're still a team, I guess, but
I think sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
What I think is interesting about that, especially, is Jackie. There are so many single shots of her, just like physically isolated within
So cool.
the frame. So like even from the beginning, I was watching it with Amanda, and she had already seen it, and I could kind of clock right away that Jackie was probably. She was going for an ill fate, because the show was like sort of sequestering her off even from the beginning.
Yeah.
It's really good filmmaking. Yeah.
That actually makes so much
That's
sense, because
really
yeah,
good
I
point,
feel like
wow.
I had those instincts as well. Like you're kind of like, something's gonna happen to Jackie. Well, and especially because in the older timeline, she's
There is
not
no Jackie.
there. So you're like,
It's
what's
telegraphed, yeah.
happening to Jackie? But like you don't even realize like what they're telling you, but like the shots are making it like.
Yeah, Donna Tartt, who wrote The Secret History, she said she wrote a why done it, because at the beginning of the book, she tells you who died, and it's the exact same thing. You're like, well, what happened to Jackie? What the heck happened to Jackie?
Yeah.
Who the
And
heck
they
is
talk about it a
Pickerel?
lot. Oh, Jackie, oh no, Jackie, she's dead. And you're like, what happened to Jackie? And you just don't even know. You would never have guessed that it was that, right? I mean, I wouldn't have
No.
predicted.
No, that wasn't my
I would have
thought
thought
at all.
I would have thought she just died in the plane crash.
Right.
Yeah.
Not so.
Yeah, you just wonder. Well, and then Shauna's with Jeff, so you're like, did they just have a friend breakup or something?
Yeah, the-
you're
the
like,
sh-
I don't
the-
know, because that happens with girls. all
Let's
the
talk
time,
about the
so-
Jeff of it all.
We'll get there.
Oh, we will.
Don't worry. All right, let's. The older timeline is so fun just because we get to see these women play out. The thing I love about this show too is we get to see. We're seeing them both happen at the same time, and we're seeing all this stuff happen while they're older, and they're like, we don't talk about what happened, and we're like, well, what happened?
Yeah, please tell us.
So we
Talk
love,
about
and
it.
it's so fun because they are showing us just like in their own time, and we're gonna find out, and like it's happening at the same. I don't know. They're like obviously in the older timeline, they're letting things out in a similar timeline fashion that we're seeing things kind of like let go in the younger timeline. They're mirroring each other in that way, but. What are your guys' thoughts on the older timeline? What do you guys? Let me actually ask, like, which characters do you love seeing, like, as their older selves? Like, which ones do you think match up really well, and which ones do you think, like, are a miss? Or if none of them are, that's fine too. Like,
Van.
yeah, Van
Adult
is perfect.
adult Van is almost identical
Yeah.
to teenage Van. That was really good casting.
Yeah.
Misty too, I think.
Oh,
my
yeah,
gosh,
yes.
Christina Ricci is a genius.
Yeah.
I do think like Misty, they've just like nailed it with both the younger actor Sam Hanratty,
Yeah.
who's like so cute, and then Cristina Ricci, who's a legend. The two of them have been able to, I think, form like the most consistent view of these women, where you're just like, yeah, that tracks. That makes sense that Misty would be locking people in her basement. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Caligula? I get that. Caligula. I think Misty is probably the reason. Like, most people are watching the adult timeline and not just being like, "Ugh." The Shauna stuff is a lot. I think we're mostly there for Jeff. I don't know, personally.
I like Shauna.
And I, as a Lottie
like Shauna
person,
too.
like, I do love the cult. I just love it. It's so weird,
It's
but
so
like
Lottie.
innocent. And she's just like, I'm just trying to make a nice place for people. Okay. I think that the Natalie situation, I think the younger actress has actually taken that character and like really made it her own in a way that like the older actress was kind of unable to pick up the thread in a similar way. So I think for me, those two, there's a little bit of disconnect. And then whenever we get younger Natalie, I'm like, that's my girl. And the older
Yeah.
one, I'm like, stranger.
Yeah, younger Natalie. That's my Natalie.
Yeah.
I also like how in the older timeline they do so much terrible stuff, and they sort of kind of brush it off like, oh, well, we were traumatized, we had to do, it's the product of what we went through. But really, what they did in the wilderness, it was all in the name of survival. With the exception of a few things, it wasn't they didn't do a lot of really terrible stuff.
Yeah, I feel like they're doing
As far-
way
as far
worse
as we
stuff
know,
as
yeah.
adults.
They're doing way worse stuff as adults, and they're justifying it in their heads because it's like, oh, we went through this horrible thing, but
We're traumatized.
yeah, and I just thought that was a really interesting thread.
Yeah, good take.
Yeah, I agree. They're totally, as adults, they like, I don't know, they're really justifying a lot, and you're like, they think, they're doing it because they think when they were young, like, it was so bad. Like, they feel so guilty about it when they were young, and really, we're like, no, that's probably the justifiable one.
Yeah, everything they do when they're young, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you're
Except-
trying to live.
With the exception of, I think, Misty pushing Crystal off the.
Yeah, that one.
That one wasn't
Going
great.
out
I think
for
that was
Kristen.
I think that was
Sorry,
Misty just
Kristen.
flying off the handle
Yeah.
a little, going all misty. Ugh.
Yeah,
Misty
that's so
mode
true.
activated.
Misty
Misty
mode
mode.
activated.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about the structure of the show? What do you love? What do you like or dislike about how it's structured, showing the younger timeline and the older timeline just kind of play out together?
I love it.
I really love it too. I feel like I can really relate to the teenagers when they're going through their stuff. And then when it just feels like such a reward to get any piece of information when they're adults. Like when they brought Adult Van on screen,
Yeah.
I audibly screamed.
I was losing it.
Having any piece of information as from them as adults feels like such a special little treat.
Yeah. I'll also say, speaking as a writer, it's incredibly difficult to jump timelines and not give away important information.
Yeah.
Like being able to parcel out little tidbits while going back and forth is extremely difficult. So my hat's off to the writers. They really
Yeah,
nailed
That's
it.
a
they do
really
that.
good point. Thank
It's
you
true,
for
they
saying
do that really well. Like, there's still so much we don't know about them being young and
Yeah.
that they've managed
And-
to hide it.
I don't know what you guys feel in the audience, but I'm like 0% a conspiracy guy. Like I read some of the theories on Reddit and stuff, and I'm like, I'm so in it to like just be like, give it to me, let me just have it wash over me. I'm not speculating or like strategizing at all, so that's how I approach it anyway. And I do enjoy like the parceling out of like, ooh, here's this and who's this, here's this. But what I love about the timelines is like as far as character work, you get to see like how their choices as children like influence them as adults, and how like what they're doing as adults, you can like trace it back to like these moments. You're like, oh, obviously Thaisa like broke Allie's leg, so of course she's gonna be like gnarly when it comes to running for Senate, you know?
Yeah.
You can like connect those things that you can only do. I mean, I think in life you have very few experiences like that where you have like lifelong friends where you get to like grow with people. And I think that's part of what gets me particularly so attached to these characters is I'm like, well, I've been there from the beginning. Like I was there when they were young and I'm here now, and I can connect all these dots of their personalities and their choices, and that for me is really fun.
Yeah, totally. What is everybody's favorite like moment from the show? I'm just curious. I know, sorry.
I have to say Doom coming, 100%.
Yeah.
It's like, they're like, oh, we're gonna die, we gotta get dressed up and have a party, which is like the most female activity. They're like, everyone packed a dress, right? And just the way that they're like, how should we celebrate this? They're like, well, we're having boyfriend drama, so we gotta sort that out, and we definitely need to get wasted because we're teenagers, and it just feels like really authentic and sweet in a way, in the
Yeah,
scene
it
where they
does.
like, they all come in together, and that's like the moment when Thaisa and Van like sort of like announce
yeah, they,
themselves
like,
as a couple.
come out, kind of.
And I
It's so cute.
It's just really sweet in a show that like isn't that sweet. It's a nice kind of setup before all the
Yeah.
craziness.
Yeah, you
happens.
get like a break from
Yeah.
the gore of it all.
It's kind of the last sweet thing they do, really, because then Jackie Snacky happens not much later. And
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like very like, it's like them, like their last little like, okay, we're still like very human.
Yeah,
Like,
we're teenage
like, We're in the
girls.
real world, we're teenage girls. Anyone else? Favorite moments?
I'll say it, Jackie Snacky. I love the Last Supper with the music and the cutting between them eating Jackie and them in their, garb. Oh, so good.
Beautiful scene.
I love it.
Yeah, there's that one shot of Thaisa. It just cuts to her just like stuffing her mouth, totally like absolutely insane. I think about that all the time. That one shot might be my favorite moment.
You ate her face.
Yeah, that's it.
What other shows are just having lines like that being thrown out in full seriousness? It's so awesome.
Yeah. The other moment is, and it's kind of a smaller moment in the show, but when Natalie finds the white moose in the lake, and they all attempt to like pull it out of the lake, and they fail, and it's
Devastating.
It's devastating and really beautifully written, and it also kind of ties up this knot between Natalie and Lottie. Like it kind of repairs their relationship a little bit, and it's just a really, really good metaphor for like letting go, and just it's really beautiful.
I love that you pointed that out because I love that yes, they lose out on the moose, but it does bring Natalie and Lottie back together.
Yeah.
Really good point.
Yeah. One of my favorite moments is also a Natalie moment. She's just so lovable. I love in, I believe it's the last episode of season 2 where they're crowning her their new like antler queen. Basically, I think the song that plays is like so cute. I'm like, this is such a funny moment because like
So PLL coded.
literally, yeah, kind of. Hobby literally just died, and they're like,
They're
the
like,
wilderness chose
"Anyway."
Natalie, and it's like really sweet because they're all like bowing
Yeah,
down
they're
to
like,
her and stuff.
Natalie!
It's really, I
We
love
know
that
Hobby's
moment. I
dead,
think
but
it's so cute. Including Hobby's brother. He's like, you're also my queen.
Yeah,
You killed my brother. It's okay.
it's fine.
Amanda brought up something while we were talking before this, and I wanted to talk about the relationship that they have to food as adults, specifically. So Amanda, you go ahead.
Yeah, take it.
I think that, again, as girlhood, just talking about sort of how you get influenced in all kinds of ways, and they obviously had this very unique experience of being cannibals in the wilderness, and as adults they all have really different and specific relationships with food. I'll just run down them as fast as I can.
Yeah.
Natalie like exclusively eats junk food. It's all crinkly stuff out of a vending machine. Thaisa is a vegetarian. She gets like extremely grossed out by meat. Misty, she loves meat.
Thaisa also eats dirt.
Thaisa also eats dirt. She also eats dirt. That's very fair to say. Shauna, we know, is butchering backyard bunnies, which is a lot. And Lottie is like a green smoothie girl. So just the way that they all kind of like come back into the regular world and how they've adapted their own eating habits like after this is super interesting to me, because I think that is a conversation that I have a lot with like my female friends, and people are always talking about, I don't know, food.
Well,
food is a thing.
Especially the scene when Misty and Natalie go on their little road trip, and Natalie says, "Really, Misty, beef jerky?" Like small things like that shows their
Yeah,
relationship
and they're all
with
judging
food.
each other
And
like, how
they're
dare you be able to eat that?
Yeah, they're like still getting over their issues with eating meat.
Not Shauna.
Yeah, no, Shauna has no problem.
Yes, I love that part too. Really beef jerky. This show has a lot of queer undertones and overtones. Obviously, we have Ty and Van, and they're very much queer, and we love them. But then there's definitely a lot of like ships, I guess, in the show that like
Jackie Shauna.
Jackie and Shauna. So yeah, Samantha, why don't you speak to that?
You know Shauna's in love with Jackie, okay? You know it. It's all between the lines. All the proof is there.
So honestly,
I could go on and on.
Honestly, I have to say that was my initial thought in the first episode. I'm queer, so I will say I was looking at it from queer lens. But when the first
okay, me
episode,
too.
when Jeff is climbing down and like leaving Jackie's house, and Shauna's like mad, I'm like, oh, is she like in love with Jackie? Like that was my thought, and then like obviously it's revealed later that it was actually Jeff, but I'm like, maybe both. Maybe both.
I feel like
Yeah.
there's sort of like a throuple, like challengers 3
yeah.
love triangle happening with
I love Jeff as Zendaya.
Yeah, with Jeff, Jackie, and Shauna, because I think they all do love each other. Shauna and Jackie love each other. They both love Jeff. It's kind of this weird triangle, and then all of a sudden one part of the triangle is just gone, and so Shauna's kind of like, well, I can't have Jackie, I might as well go with Jeff, you know?
Yeah.
Next best thing.
Yeah.
It kind of is.
Yeah, I know there's some Natalie Lottie shippers as well.
yeah.
They have great tension, but I think
I ship Natalie with anyone.
literally Sophie Thatcher,
Especially
is
with
great.
me.
But above all, with me.
Sophie Thatcher's from Utah. Isn't she?
I do think like what's so cool about the overtness, let's say, of like Ty and Van is it's set in the 90s. There's obviously also a queer character, Ben, Coach Ben, who is like, he's carrying a lot of shame and he's like not out in the way that he wants to be, and it's a huge conflict in his relationship with Paul. Is that what that guy's name?
Yeah, I think
So
Paul.
boring.
And Misty, honestly.
And
Ooh, the Misty of it all.
Misty. And I do like I love having that juxtaposition and having him be there as like sort of their mentor figure for a second, and then having the girls be like, we're just gonna like go for it. This is like the end of the world for us, and we're not gonna, and none of them get pushed back. I think that's really important for me as watching the show and realizing like the team, none of them were like, ew. Half of them were like, duh. Like,
They're a team of female
obviously.
soccer players, I mean.
And I think that's like when you're hanging out with women a lot and you're talking about stuff, and there's just like there's an intimacy, there's a camaraderie, and we joke a lot about like historically people will say like, and they were roommates. We're like, lovers, just say it. And I think there's a lot of that going on like with the Yellowjackets team. There's love that is on different levels and is coming in different physical ways. And it's a hard thing to define, but I also love that it is defined in a couple of cases with like specifically Ty and Van.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. All right, I want to talk about the few men that we have in this show, and do we love them? Do we hate them? The Jeff of it all. Samantha, do you want to talk about Jeff?
Here's the thing about Jeff. Jeff has known about the wilderness forever. He doesn't care. He'll go to prison for Shauna. He'll burn the evidence. I love the scene where he says, "Have you been tested? you should get tested." She's smart. Jeff is so inherently irrelevant and boring. He owns a furniture store. Like, even his like sexual fantasies are like really vanilla. But his loyalty to Shauna and his love for Shauna, and it just triumphs over everything. And even when he finds out like she murdered her lover, he's like, "Oh no, what are we gonna do about it?" He's never like mad. I just love him. He's so unconditionally in love with Shauna and wants to protect and provide for her regardless of the cost, even if he has to accidentally do a little bit of blackmail to his wife.
Accidentally.
Oops, no.
I think he did it on purpose.
It was, you know.
I love, like, one of my favorite scenes in the show is when they go to Jackie's house with her parents, and it's like, Jackie's
yeah.
birthday, and he says, Jackie and I were sleeping, or Shauna and I were sleeping together when Jackie and I were still a couple. And he just like, it really sticks into
obviously
Jackie's
that's not
mom,
good.
and it's so funny. It's just a really good moment, but it also is like one of those where you're like, he just has her back unconditionally. Like, there is not a thing this woman could do on earth that he would be like, oh, too far.
Yeah, I also like that when they go over for Jackie's birthday dinner, because it's just further proof that he would choose Shauna over Jackie any day.
It's just so sweet. It's so cute.
He just loves him some Shauna.
You know, I'm actually not so sure about that.
Oh?
I think
Throwing a
they're-
wrench in?
Yeah, they're like severely trauma bonded. So they like went through this horrible, terrible thing together. And if Jackie had come out instead of Shauna, I think he probably would have gone with Jackie. I mean, I think he's really just
Great point.
I think he's just like responding to all this crazy stuff that happens in his life, and he's just like, I'll just go with the flow, do whatever needs to happen, because his identity is so like tied up in the trauma of his wife that he doesn't really have a lot of room for himself. So he, you know, the what I was saying earlier about him, you know, going in the car and turning on Papa Roach and just like, you know, counting. Yeah, exactly. Like
So
that's like the most basic like white boy response to bad things happening. Like, just go in my car and listen to some new metal. Like, God, it's so he's just so basic, and I think
He's so boring.
he's
I
so
love him.
shaped by his events. He's kind of a sad little man, but I do love him.
Yes.
And I do identify with him a little bit.
I love Jeff too. Just he's in the beginning, like in the first episode, you see Jeff and you're like, oh, he's like the typical like football player, like boyfriend guy, like okay, whatever, and then he's sleeping with Shauna, and you're like, okay, this further proves this point, like he sucks, right?
Yeah.
And then you find him in the later seasons, and he's clearly like become shaped, like he's clearly made a life based on what has like come to him, and he's like making choices that are like good, that like, you know, he easily, like you said, he easily could have ended up with Jackie, he easily could have ended up with Shauna. If they had never crashed, like he probably just would have ended up living a very boring life. And he still is kind of boring, but like he's there and he's like, okay, this is happening, and he's choosing to like make it work with like who he's with, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, he blackmails them to save his furniture business.
Yeah.
Like that's like the
So
most
cute.
boring crime I can think of.
He's
Yeah.
just Jeff.
He just
He's
loves
irrelevant.
furniture.
He's boring,
And he does the
we love him.
blackmail with the dumbest man alive. He's like, okay, who should I do this with? Randy, the dumbest man alive?
Oh,
Good idea.
Randy.
Oh my god.
Randy.
And I think let's transition a little bit into some of these other men. We've got
Yeah.
Randy, who is again
We have
the
Randy,
dumbest man alive.
Travis, we
Um,
also have
Travis, who is great, and
Elijah
just
Wood,
like
yes,
kind
Walter.
of
Walter.
stuck on
Yeah,
the ride.
I want to get into the Walter of it all.
We've got Kevin Tran,
Yeah,
the cop.
Kevin
A couple of other people.
Joel
kind
McHale
of-
on the way.
Joel McHale
Any
on the
community fans in here? Okay, okay.
But yeah, bringing on Elijah Wood.
Oh my goodness.
Let's talk about Walter.
Just,
Detective Ray.
I'm just curious, who by a show of hands knew Elijah Wood was in the show before you started watching? Incredible.
Fun
I didn't
surprise.
know either. It was a total surprise. I was like, is that Elijah Wood?
And having him as a foil to Cristina Ricci, I think they're both like kind of
Yeah.
child
Oh,
stars from
man.
the 90s.
They play on each other so
So
well. And like that scene when it's the split screen of both of them doing their little hotel routine, wiping it. So cute. So cute.
Yes.
I hope we get more Walter and Misty in season 3.
Oh, I bet we will.
Also, since he's like really involved now.
He has done some murders.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's got some bodies in the closet now. He's in it.
Really quick, we're gonna put up a thing on the TV, and if anybody wants to ask questions, we will answer at the end.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
You can text it to the number that will be on the screen.
We'll be
Anyway.
here in a second.
Yeah, in just a sec. But anyway, Walter, yes.
I need more Walter and Misty.
Yeah, I agree.
No.
It just makes me really happy because you see Misty really trying to date and like wanting to find a soulmate or a friend of any kind. Like nobody wants Misty around.
Not even
They're just-
Natalie.
Not even Natalie. Natalie kind of does, I think.
I think
was
she
like-
comes around.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think she comes around. But it makes me so happy like that she and Walter find each other, and Walter's like, no, I am here. Like I want you. She's like, really? Okay.
Oh, he's so cute. He's
Yeah.
so perfect for her.
And
Oh.
for Misty, who is like a very lonely individual, partially because she pushes her friends off cliffs, it's nice to see her like with a friend.
It is. It's so nice. Yeah. We love Walter.
I'm really curious to see in season 3 how adult Misty is going to handle losing adult Natalie. And how she's going,
Yeah.
if that's going to be like a huge hindrance, if she's going to be like hallucinating adult Natalie. I'm really curious to see how they
Yeah,
do that.
that'll be fun. There's a lot of great like technical choices with like music and costumes.
The music is so
Yeah.
good.
Any favorite songs or moments that use like really great? They use really good.
Using
90s
Zombie?
90s music really well.
Using Zombie
I
when
know.
Natalie gets away and Javi dies. Crazy song choice. Crazy song choice.
Every time I hear that song now, like anywhere in the world, I'm like, Natalie.
I really feel like all the song, like nothing is there by accident. Every song is used for a specific purpose. They really killed it with the soundtrack.
This thing is dying, so sorry.
The
Go
number,
fast.
if you guys want to text any questions, the number is 801-413-3570. You can just text it.
I can write it on one
Samantha
of these too.
will write it on that. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, Amanda, do you have any thoughts on the music or
Oh my gosh, I have
costumes?
non-stop thoughts
I know
about the
you do.
music. I do think like, okay, how do I say this at a con? Certain franchises have gone off on needle drops, and I hate it. And I think a well-used like placement of like a really popular famous song is like powerful in its own right. But what this one did was like bring back some like jock jams from the 90s, which I was like, woohoo! Among other things, like great stuff from Radiohead and who else have we got on this soundtrack? Help me out with names.
Smashing Pumpkins.
Smashing Pumpkins, PJ Harvey.
Oh yeah, the
um,
PJ Harvey song,
like-
Down by the Water.
Really good stuff that you would not like have heard 1,000 times already in a movie from a superhero franchise, for example. And I think that's huge. Not to mention the score is fantastic. If you haven't listened to it, oh my gosh, it will put you in the exact right mood.
I like to listen to it when I'm on a plane. I like to listen to plane
Just to
crash
tempt fate.
while I'm, just to let the Antler Queen know, hey, I'm here, I'm listening.
And it's something that I love about like the time and place. I think there's some things that like choose to be set in the 90s and I'm like, why? Or things that should have been more obviously set in the 90s. Like, okay, I'll go to my grave being like, why wasn't Harry Potter the movie series like more obviously set in the 90s? You know, we all have our peccadillos.
Right.
But I love that about this one in particular, that it was like, what did it feel like to be a teen girl in 1990 whatever? And there's a scene in the cabin where they're doing, is it Montel Jordan? This is how we
Yeah.
They're doing a dance
It's
together,
so fun.
and I was like, yes, this is like what it was like.
Peak girlhood.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
there was no reason for it. It was just a very different vibe, obviously.
That's
It
how
was
they
not
get
like,
their exercising.
Yeah, it was just for fun. Like there was no TikTok about it. It was just like we're dancing.
They're just wanting to learn to dance.
Yeah.
Okay, we have to ask the question, do we think it's something mystical or is it not?
I think it's mystical.
Team Supernatural all the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think whatever's going on in the wilderness has been there long before these girls. It will be there long after them. I don't have, again, predictions, but I am excited to find out.
Yeah, I
What do you-
think there's a flashback. I think it's in the second season when Lottie is in the car with her parents as a child, and she has that premonition, and she has like screams at them to stop them before they get hit by a truck. So it's like pretty explicitly canon that Lottie is psychic, at least in some way. So it follows that what happens in the wilderness is her like communing with the wilderness. So yeah, Team Supernatural all the way.
Yeah, I'm definitely Team Supernatural too. I mean, the symbols are on the trees before they get there. Like, I don't know
Taissa
how...
and the No-Eyed Man
Oh, yeah.
is way before she goes to the wilderness
Yeah,
too.
that's so true. Yeah, there's just a lot that shows that I'm like, I don't know that they could just be like making this up. I'm like, I do like I guess we all hallucinate eventually when we get really hungry, but ultimately, no, I don't. I think there's too much happening for it to be like coincidental. And I hope that's how it plays out. I really do, because I think that would be so fun to see. Okay, we actually did have a question. What do we think of the No-Eyed Man? Because you just brought him up.
So freaking scary.
And the fact that it was sort of
No eyes, sorry, yeah.
it was like an ancestral ghost, right? Because her grandmother
Yeah, it's like generational
saw
almost.
it too,
Yeah.
and she was like, oh sorry, oopsie, you see that too?
It's
That
kind
sucks.
of like a generational trauma thing,
Yeah,
where
it's
it's
like
like her grandma passed it
the
to
genetic
her,
ghost.
and maybe she's kind of passed it on to her son, who we know is like
oh, Sammy.
he's sensitive. He sees the other Taissa and
Oh,
knows
yeah,
the
Sammy.
difference.
Very intuitive.
Yeah,
I
he's
love him.
I think it also points to the possibility, because it's the No-Eyed Man has been in their lives before, that maybe they've all been drawn to the wilderness. Like
I love that.
oh, I like that.
maybe they've been called by the wilderness to like survive there. So
Yeah, that's totally possible.
yeah.
I kind of love that too.
I really like that,
That's an interesting theory.
because of that also kind of brings into play like something took their plane down. Something pulled
Yeah.
their plane down. It didn't
Right.
just crash in the
Like, they were
wilderness.
meant to
They
be
were
pulled
meant to
down.
crash there.
And, like, who
and that's what
survived.
that's what originally got me into the show, was like the not knowing of it all. So yeah, I really like that. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah, and if that's the case, that would be really interesting, because it's happening before they even get there. Like, it's not them arriving there that starts it. It's
Also, it would
already
open
begun.
up the door for the franchise. You could do prequels. Who else has landed on this island?
Well, we know we have to address the issue of Cabin Daddy sometime soon. Who was the man who was living upstairs in the
Yeah.
cabin?
Yeah, I really.
Who is he?
And I don't think that these writers will leave us in the lurch. I don't think we'll have threads that they
I really-
forget about.
yeah, I
So
hope
I'm
not.
sure the hunter in the cabin will come back around.
They've said they have 5 seasons planned,
Yes.
I think. So
Nice.
they've been
That
plotting
makes
it
me
out. They
happy.
have, yeah, I have total faith.
These are smart writers. I'm really glad
They
that they
are.
went on
It's
strike
very-
and that they're getting paid now.
It's very
Heck yeah.
smart writing. Okay, I'm gonna do some questions. We've been getting some good ones. What do you think about the connection between Shauna's daughter and Jackie in Shauna's future storyline? Kailee is Shauna's daughter.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I mean, it starts off with Kailee literally wearing Jackie's clothes.
I know.
Right? And she sees her at the party, and it's like really startling. Like, Jackie? Oh, it's my kid. And
I love when she says to her daughter, "That was Jackie's uniform," and her daughter's kind of like, "Oh,
She gets it. The
like
legend.
sorry, mom, like sorry."
yeah, I also think like Shauna sucks. So she's put a lot of like what she shouldn't on her daughter. Like, you're my new best friend now, and like, here's all the crimes I've been committing lately. I'm like, Shauna.
Yeah,
So I think
they-
in some
they
ways
really
she's like,
involved her.
I'm gonna mentally, emotionally replace my best friend with my teenage daughter.
Yeah,
That's what I think.
they really are a little bit too honest with Kailee. It's okay to lie to your
Yeah,
kids
she
about
can know less.
something.
I know, because when you think about it, she's like 17 years old. That's pretty young.
I love Kailee though, as being a child of Jeff and Shauna, and she's like, well, I'm involved, and I'm helping, even though I'm not, and I'm definitely gonna be like along for the ride now. Like the trio of them, they're like,
Yes.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited to see where their family goes and
Yeah,
like,
like-
how involved Kailee is.
When Kailee says, "Oh, but it's okay, I fixed it. I lied to the cop," and Shauna's like, "What?"
maybe
She's
that's
like,
the
"It's
reason you
fine."
don't include your teenage daughter.
Exactly.
It's so funny because she reminds us all, I think, a lot of like Shauna too. Like,
Oh,
just
most
in a lot
definitely.
of ways. She just didn't go in the wilderness.
But
so she's
but
not
also
smart as
Jackie
others.
in a way. She's
Yeah.
popular. She's cute. She's got this confidence.
She has a fun boyfriend. Yeah, like she has
Yeah.
a lot. She has a lot
Sassy.
going
She has a
on.
boyfriend that she doesn't really like, just like Jackie.
That's true. I love that. Okay.
Good question. Whoever's question that was. Very
yes. Oh, I just have to. I love this question. How ridiculously brilliant are the opening credits / theme though?
good.
I
So
love-
ridiculously brilliant. Oh my gosh! Can you believe that cut of Ella Purnell doing this was
Oh my
just an
goodness.
outtake?
It
Oh
was?
my! Yes, it was. She was
That's
just like
so
goofing
cool.
off.
Yes, I love gushing about that opening.
I
Everything,
could go
every
off.
single time I watch it, as an editor, I watch that and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's
That's
a work
a-
of genius.
That's a
It's so
theme
good.
song. That's a theme
theme
you
song.
never skip.
I
That
agree.
intro does not get
Yeah,
skipped
that
in this
intro
household.
is a no skip completely, and the fact that they got it.
Oh,
that
yeah.
it's Alanis.
And when Alanis Morissette did the
Like,
cover,
come on.
and they did
That's some 90s girl
they
stuff.
they
Yeah.
did kind of like the spooky one in Lottie's hallucination, where it was like kind of soft in the background.
Ooh, I have
Oh, it
chills.
was so
It's
good.
So,
I
so
really
good.
love how they use the intro, and I think it's really effective and kind of spooky.
Yeah,
I
it
love
fits
it.
the vibe of the show so.
Very
so
good question.
well. Yeah, and I like that they changed it from season 1 to season 2.
Yes,
so.
I wonder maybe we'll see a change in season 3.
I hope so. I bet we will.
We've got maybe some new
Maybe-
characters on the board.
Some Walter representation. of
Yes,
it.
I would love to see a little bit of Walter in there. He is one of the main
Yes.
characters now.
Walter Tattersall. I just have to say the full name because
Tattersall.
it's so good.
Oh my goodness. Okay, what character choice do you judge the most?
Oh my gosh. Of all these
Wow, this is a
horrible choices.
really good
I
one.
know. And it could be older or younger, I guess, technically. So.
I really judged Jackie for the whole Kevin situation. I really thought that was gross of her.
You know, I really judge Misty for poisoning
And to repeat,
everyone.
Lottie,
Do you
he
mean
does not
Travis?
belong
Do you mean
to
Travis?
her.
If I-
Travis.
Okay,
Travis.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I blame Misty for poisoning everyone.
Oh, yeah, that-
if,
that was
if,
bad.
if someone dosed me with shrooms without my consent, I would not
listen,
be a happy
she didn't,
camper.
She didn't know, but also,
Yes.
but I agree, I would not be happy at all if that happened.
I gotta say the coach burning down the house. That was.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's actually true, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
I
really
stand on
excited
good
to
for-
see
but
him
most like-
get
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
just
obviously.
desserts.
You know, Ben was really like on a downhill slope, and then he burned the house. You're like, okay, well now we really have a
Yeah.
reason to
What
hate
a
you.
jerk.
Yeah, I kind of wish Misty had pushed him.
It's like an example
Yeah.
of really rigid morality. Just like it's like, oh, you ate people, so now I'm gonna kill you all. Like it just, no, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say Shauna
Yeah.
killing what's his face.
See,
Her lover.
Was it that sad?
Yeah.
I don't remember his name.
Adam. Yes, his name was
thank
Adam.
You, Adam. Yeah.
He was
I
Shauna
really
killing
find myself
Adam.
excusing
Like,
things in this show.
It's so funny. I kind of love that whole storyline because everyone was wondering what was going to happen, and Adam literally turned out to be no one.
I know.
I know. He was literally just exactly who he
I
presented
thought,
himself.
I thought
to
he
be.
was going to be connected to the blackmail. And then
Yeah.
he literally did not matter at all.
No,
he
and
was
it
not
was-
connected in any way. That was
Yeah.
so funny.
And I loved it because it was really smart of the show because a lot of times shows do that and then you're like, oh, like they faked us out. But the show really wasn't like making him out to be anything.
No.
It was just like we're seeing all these things happen and so we're starting to theorize and so is Shauna and everyone else like, oh, Adam's got to be bad. And then it turns out, no, he was
He's just a
literally
guy.
just a guy.
It's literally just a
who has now been killed.
guy, yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
Rough
That's essentially the whole
times.
Yellowjackets thing about Adam. Oh, sorry we killed Adam. Our bad.
Our bad.
Maimed his body.
And yeah, then Misty's
Again,
like,
I really
go out
do
in the
excuse
woods.
a lot. Like I would not consider. I'm like very much a pacifist in life, but on this show, I'm like kill him. Whoa.
Yeah, that's weird. It's weird how that
The wilderness.
It's the female rage. It just, I don't know, brings it out of you. Like, man, I hope they castrate Ben for burning down the cabin. That's just not
It's not
cool.
a good move.
It's so funny. Okay, let's see. This question, I'm curious as to why you all think Shauna cares about Jeff at all. Basically, like, what they got from the show was that, like, Shauna was basically with Jeff because she just kind of wanted Jackie's life and also went to Jeff out of guilt.
May I?
Yeah.
I have a lot of thoughts about Shauna. I think that her being like sort of the classic suburban housewife trope where she feels very trapped in that, and it's not something she feels that she chose but was sort of foisted upon her by like the community she lived in and the time period in which she grew up, and also she experienced a very traumatic thing in the wilderness, more so than I think any of the other girls, that sort of just like set her future like on a different course. She was like, I'm gonna be a writer, I'm gonna go to Brown, and then she was like, I don't even care. Like, I think it just puts things into a perspective where she probably came home, I predict was on autopilot, and suddenly was like, I just woke up in my life and I don't know what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
And I think that happens to a lot of, especially women who don't feel like they have like the luxury of choice. So I do think it's super interesting to watch her like rebelling against that situation and finding herself in a moment where she's like, whoa, hold on, what am I doing here? My kid hates me and I think I hate her back. I believe she calls her an a-hole.
She does, yeah.
And like, I have this husband, but like, we don't know each other at all. Anyway, I think I have empathy for her. I think she suffered in a different way, in a very specific and unique way in the wilderness. And yeah, I do just view her as being like someone who was on an autopilot that she suddenly woke up out of and started freaking out, and the way that she lashed out just happened to be tied to her role in the wilderness, which was the butcher.
Well, I would say it's not only that she lost the baby in the wilderness, but it's also that she lost Jackie as
Yeah.
kind of a double whammy
Yeah,
that
true.
none of the other teammates can. Like, they loved Jackie, but Shauna lost a baby and her best friend. That's got to be, I mean, how do you come back from that?
And she
Yeah.
was carrying guilt because they had been fighting. Like, there's just a lot.
And, you know, Jeff was the father.
Yeah.
That too.
That's hard. Yeah, I do think that she does love Jeff now, but I think we've seen the process in the show. It looks like in season 2, they start to like very much become a team with each other, and they're working together.
They're working on their
And,
marriage. It's so
yeah,
cute.
They they really are. Like, you can see it.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not just like going to like counseling and it's totally fake.
Or
Like, they're
just
really,
continuing to lie to each
yeah,
other.
and yeah, like they're actually being honest with each other, and that's what they need to move forward, because she can't really be honest with very many people, and so the fact that she can finally do that with him and he does that with her, like, is a big step, and I do think they're gonna
And-
grow together.
And just that he admits, like, yeah, I read your journals. I know all about it. It doesn't change anything.
It
Like, I
does-
still love you.
I know, that's so cute.
I think people view that as an invasion of privacy, but like as a writer, I think it would be such a relief to be like, oh good, so you just like saw it in my best form. Like, you read it all, I didn't have to like
Yeah.
have that conversation and you got what you needed. Great.
Yeah, seriously. All right, any last thoughts? Anything you want to see in season 3, or if you want to share any theories? I know you don't have to share theories, but like, just what would you like to see in season 3? Yes.
I just think more of the same. Like, I'm very on board. I think these creators have a very special thing, and it is their baby, and who am I to like tell them what to do? So I think, you know, I want to see them interacting more. I think one of the most fun things was when the adults all came back together at the cult, and they had that great scene when they were dancing and drinking and etc. That was really fun.
Yeah.
So that's what I love to see. Again, like, my favorite scene is Doom coming. I just like when they're like happy and together.
Right.
There was just casting news that Hilary Swank is going to be in the next season, so I'm very much
Crazy she's gonna
looking
be.
forward to seeing her, and maybe a little face-off with Elijah Wood. That would be very cool, like that.
I would love to see that. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm hoping for more Walter and Misty in season 3, and I would really love just like a little bit more information about like just a possibility of who Pit Girl is. Just
That's also
Just
mine.
like one little like nod to her.
Yeah, I think we're all dying to get to Pit Girl, and we know it can't. I don't think
You
it's
all
gonna
think
come.
it's Mari, or is that just me?
No, I don't think it's Mari.
I don't know. It's so hard to know.
But we're also running out of characters, so I don't know.
we are. Like it could be her. I feel like we've got to get to Pit Girl in season 3 or 4 because like season 5 is probably
Yeah, it's gonna be the wrap up,
rescue.
so-
like so it's possible we maybe we'll get to Pit Girl. All right, we are out of time. Thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Yes,
We
thank
love
you.
talking about Yellowjackets. If you want to talk more, we will be out in the hallway. We actually have stickers and friendship bracelets.
Yes,
Yellowjackets
Kaylee made the
friendship
cutest Yellow
bracelets
Jackets
to
friendship
hand out,
bracelets.
so
Come look at them.
Come talk to us. Thank you so much for coming.
Yes, thank you, thank you,
So
thank
fun.
you.
Yes.
Buzz, buzz, buzz.
Buzz, buzz.
Buzz, buzz.